So, friends, let's discuss an essay today on the topic Experience is not what happens to you, it is what you do with what happens to you. I repeat, experience is not what happens to you, it is what you do with what happens to you. So, this is a very famous quotation by Aldous Huxley, and you just think about it, what comes to your mind, and then I will elaborate on it. So, okay, I assume you have written an essay on this, and now I'm going to explain. Experience is not what happens to you, it is what you do with what happens to you. Now, this statement gives me ideas, two inferences I can draw from this essay statement. Number one is about experience. Now, what is experience? Experience is what do we mean when we say that a person is very experienced in his life? We mean that that person has learned a lot of things. That person has become wise. He has gained wisdom. He is a better individual now. So this process of becoming a better individual, this process of becoming more wise, this process of becoming wiser is not a passive process, but an active process. It is not that you will be thrown in a chain of events, or just because you are growing old, just because your age is increasing, you will keep on gathering experiences. No. What also matters is that you have to actively participate in that process. That is, you have to make some conscious decisions. You have to make some choices. You have to get into an action mode and try to solve those situations around you. Now, whether you fail or whether you succeed, that is another thing. But when you actively participate and actively do something to resolve the moment of crisis, one thing is there for definite, and that is that you will come out as a wiser person. You will come out as a better person. So, number one is this inference that the process of learning, that the process of becoming experienced is not a passive process but an active process. In fact, something similar was said by George Bernard Shaw also, who said this thing that men are wise in proportion not to their experience but to their capacity for experience. That is, men are wise not in proportion to their experience. That is, they don't become wise on the basis of how many things they have seen in life, but they become wise in proportion to their capacity for experience. That is, how much they want to learn from whatever they have seen in life or whatever they are going through in life. So this is the first inference. Then you can expand this inference of the topic. The second inference which I can draw from this statement is, the statement of our essay is, that whenever you are thrown in a situation of crisis, then you should be positive about it. Whenever you are surrounded by difficult circumstances, then don't go in depression. Don't fill yourself with negativity, but rather try to look at the positive side of it and try to find out what are the good things which you can do, or what are the good things which you have learned from it. So don't waste the moment of crisis by being negative, but adopt a positive approach for it. So this essay also calls upon us to adopt a positive approach to our circumstances. And this is very relevant in our present times when we are going through this pandemic crisis, COVID-19 crisis. Now, COVID-19 definitely has created a crisis for India, for the entire world, for us as an individual, for us as family, for us as community. But in these moments of crisis, there are some things which we can learn from it. Rather than surrendering, rather than just crying about it, we must look at what we can learn from it. So this COVID-19 crisis, it has opened up many new lessons for us. We have learned the importance of healthcare, the importance of a strong and robust supply chain of medicines. These kind of things we have, and we have also learned how to erect new hospitals in a very short period of time. Now, this thing which we can carry on even after when the COVID crisis is over, we must continue this thing that is growing hospitals and investing on our infrastructure on healthcare. We have also seen how uh, vaccines are being quickly developed around the world, how people are cooperating with each other. These are the lessons which we have learned from COVID crisis as a community. We have also learned lessons from this COVID crisis as family and also as at an individual level. For example, we have come to realize that there were a lot of expenditures which we used to do, which were not necessary. It was only the market and the capitalism which was infusing in us a sort of dependence on those extravagant things. But COVID crisis has shown us that yes, you can survive and live without doing those hefty expenditures on those fancy vacations and so on. So many lessons which we have learned. If you have learned these lessons, then you will come out as an experienced person. If you have not learned these lessons, then you will stay a fool. So all of us have faced this COVID-19 crisis, but only those people will come out experienced who have learned something from it. In fact, something similar was also said by Muhammad Ali. He was a boxer, a very famous boxer. And he said that the man who views the world at 50, the same as he did at 20, has wasted 30 years of his life. So if I will repeat what Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer, said, that man who views the world at an age of 50, the same way as he did at the age of 20, has wasted 30 years of his life. So if you have not learned something, then basically you have not grown up. So if you have not learned anything from the age of 20 to 50, it basically means that your life has been stagnant. You have not moved forward. So this shows us the importance of learning from our circumstances. Whatever circumstances surround us, we should learn from it. Rather than cribbing about it in negativity, we should be hopeful and we should make our best to learn something from it. So here on we can elaborate, we can go further and expand on it, such as that human life is unpredictable, human life is chaotic. We are surrounded by circumstances which are often not in our control. We can't control everything which comes in our life. And we must be positive about it. So whether the things take place in our life according to our wishes or against them, whether they are sweet or bad, we should be positive about them. Next, these are the things, like some examples at an individual level, some more like at a community level, especially as a country if I talk about. Now, we have seen at a community level, we will say that we have seen many moments of crisis. For example, in 1970s, we saw war. In 1960s also we saw wars. Then it taught us the importance of having strong armed forces. It taught us that we could not rely on our desires to have peaceful relations with our neighbors, but we also need to invest on our armed forces. And that has helped us today to become strong and robust, at least to the extent that we can defend our borders without having to fear about the intentions of the enemy or the rival countries. So even if today China is sitting on our borders and we are both India and China are having a sort of confrontation face to face, there is a lot of tension, but we are able to hold on that rival country, that strong country, just because we have invested very strongly on our defense. So that because we took lessons from 1960s, the wars of 1962, and even the succeeding wars with Pakistan, we learned some lessons that we need to have strong armed forces. Similarly, we were facing terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism. So we learned some lessons from that 1960s. We came up with new state agencies to deal with that, with those terrorisms. And this is an ongoing process, friends. This is not that something which has ended. This will continue. This process to learn will continue. So we are also having crises such as cyclones, such as earthquakes, such as floods. Now these crises, some of them are not in our hand. Now when an earthquake takes place, it's not in our hand. The best we can do is learn how to respond to those crises. Now when a cyclone comes, we can prepare our early warning systems, and that has worked positively in our case. A decade ago, when cyclone used to come in Odisha, it used to kill thousands of people. But now, because we have evolved, we have learned from those tragedies. Today, we are in a better position, and cyclones at a same level of intensity do not cause the same level of devastation, because we have evolved and we have become more prepared for disasters. So this disaster management, concepts related to disaster management also you can invoke here. Then you can also say that this process of learning is not a one-time process. It's an ongoing process. It will continue forever. And there are many places where we have failed. Now this the Kedarnath tragedy which occurred, it seems we have not yet learned from it. Every year we have floods, almost every year we have floods in Northeast India. We have still not learned from it. So that shows failures on our part, and we should avoid it. We should definitely learn from our crisis, climate crisis, and our these floods which do a lot of damage to life and property. So unless we learn from these experiences, these bad experiences, we won't evolve. Next is that learning, the one thing which I can add here is that this learning, we can add one dimension here. This essay is not talking about it, but we can still add it to show that yes, we can think beyond the topic statement also. That topic statement said that experience is not what happens to you, it is what you do with what happens to you. So it is not just what we can add here is that we should learn not only from our own experiences, but we can also learn from the experiences of others. So we can also gain experiences by doing something when something happens to others. So we can learn from the mistakes which other people or other communities or other countries did. We can learn from them also. So with this, friends, we can give some international examples also. Like I was talking about Japan. Now Japan is a country which does not have a lot of resources with it. It is just an island country, small islands there are, and they also face a lot of earthquakes. But still they have evolved a peculiar kind of architecture, and they are able to survive with it. So similarly Israel. Now Israel consists of communities which has faced a lot of genocide during the World War era. But they learned from it. They learned from their bad experiences, and they passed on that learnings to the successive generations. And today Israel is really a strong country. It is surrounded by 6 sort of enemy states which are ideologically committed to destroy it, but still Israel is surviving and thriving. So this shows that how you can learn from your experiences. Similarly, India also has to learn from our experiences. We have to learn from our experiences. There are very harsh lessons which history taught us. One such lesson was partition. Partition occurred because of communalism. Now if we don't keep communalism in check, it will lead to similar catastrophic situation in the future also. So we need to keep communalism in check, and we need to learn from our bad experiences of how communalism led to partition in 1947. Similarly, even a few centuries before that, India, a vast country like India, it succumbed to tiny country from England. East India Company could come and rule over us because we were disunited. We did not have unity. So we should learn from it. We should be united. So in this way, friends, what I am proposing here is that we should learn from our historical mistakes. The historical mistakes which we have done, we should definitely learn from it. And we should also learn from our present times, the crises which are there around us. One such example I gave you was of COVID-19. You can think of all those crises, all those things where we are performing bad, whether it's education or whether it's healthcare, whatever comes to your mind. We should definitely learn from it. Or some schemes where we have some places where we have done good, done better. Then these are the examples to show that how learning from experiences, they make us a better human being or a better family or a better community or a better country. Okay, so towards these things you can end by invoking the importance of learning from your experiences. So friends, here I end this discussion on experience is not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. So I hope this was beneficial. Thank you and have a nice day.